This article, again from Android Police, is talking about the Huawei P40 Pro Plus, and it's now available outside of China without Google Apps. The Huawei P40 Pro Plus is a phone that is on my radar right now because I've heard a lot of good things about it, despite it not having Google. I really want to test it out for its camera because I heard that it might be even better than the iPhone 11 Pro, better than the Pixel 4, and I would love to test it out. There is also a really, I guess, like weird, quirky part of me that wants to mess around with this phone and use it as a daily driver because it doesn't have Google. And just to use it and see how I can get through my week. I actually think that would be a good video to use it for a week and give you my experience of having a phone without Google on it and relying on whatever else instead of Google Maps, instead of like Google Keep, Gmail. Oh my God. I'm so deep into Google's ecosystem with photos and Google Pay that I can't imagine being outside of it, but I would still love to test it out. At the end of the day, though, the P40 Pro Plus is a very, very, very expensive phone. 4 rear cameras, 2 colors, 0 Google Maps. Even though Huawei has been blocked from working with Google, the company is continuing to push forward with its Android smartphones. The P40 series was announced earlier this year, but at the time, only the P40 and P40 Pro P40 Plus models were available to purchase outside of China. Now, the camera powerhouse that is the P40 Pro Plus is coming to the rest of the world, but there's still no sign of the Play Store, and I don't think that's going to be coming anytime soon. The main selling point of the P40 Pro Plus is the rear camera array, which includes a 50 megapixel main lens, a 40 megapixel ultra wide camera, an 8 megapixel periscope lens, and an 8 megapixel telephoto. There's also all the usual high-end Android smartphone features: 4200 milliamp hour battery, 40-watt fast wired charging, Android 10, IP68 water protection. Okay, so no headphone jack. So it doesn't use a Snapdragon. It uses a Kirin 990 5G chipset, 8 gigs of RAM. You can get up to 512 gigs of internal storage. We went over the cameras already. And then it uses EMUI, Face Unlock, Wi-Fi 6 Plus. Before you get too excited, this phone doesn't ship with Google Play services, so there are no Google applications. Most third-party Android applications won't work either, thanks to their reliance on the Play services framework. And then so it says here, the P40 Pro Plus is now available for pre-order in Europe for €13.99, which is almost $1,600 US, and $12.99 GBP in the United Kingdom. That's a lot of money to pay for a phone that won't be able to run Google Maps, but at least you'll be able to take some fantastic photos. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. There's a weird part of me that wants to test it out, that wants to see if I can live without Google. There's also a part of me that is a little tired of Google shit. Like, I'm not going to lie. I'm happy for Android 11, right? I'm happy Google is still continuing to do their thing, but there are a lot of things that I'm not on board with. A lot of them giving up on, certain hardware and software, but we rely on them. They make our ecosystem, and a lot of stuff works really well. I think about other things I use with Google, like Sheets and Docs, and like I said earlier, little things like Keep, and then all my photos in Google Pay and Gmail. And to think that I wouldn't be able to use any of that and try to rely on something else is kind of crazy, but also makes me curious to see how I could live without it. I might try this out. Maybe. So let me continue on though, because what I want to talk about is the P40 Plus and its camera, and actually dig into this camera and see what it's all about. So this article from Android Central is saying Huawei gives us the most versatile smartphone camera ever, with a catch. I don't know if that catch is no Google services. I'm assuming that's the catch, unless there's a different catch that I'm not privy to. It's been half a decade since the first telephoto zoom cameras brought extra versatility to smartphone photography, letting us punch into pull more detail from our shots without relying on crummy digital zoom. Since then, advancements in tiny telephoto technology have given us three times and 5 times zoom, which, when paired with an ultra wide lens, lets high end smartphones imitate the range of a dedicated point and shoot pretty well. This is a real optical 10 times zoom in a phone, and once you've tried it, you'll want it in everything. Yeah, I've never had that. So I would love to see how useful a 10 times optical zoom would be for me. Other phones will get there perhaps in the next year, but Huawei has this next gen zoom shipping on a phone this month. Of course, being a Huawei phone in 2020, there's a pretty big software related elephant in the room, particularly given its £12.99 price tag. So wait a minute. The P40 Pro Plus versus the P40 Pro, right? So if I were to buy the P40 Pro, I would still get to use the main shooter, right? Which is really what I'm interested in more than anything else. Like, I would love to try the 10 times optical zoom, but I would love to just see how good the main shooter is on the P40 Pro. So if that's considerably cheaper, maybe I could take a look at that to test out the cameras, just to test out the main shooter, see how good it shoots during the day. And really what I want to test is to see how well it works at night. But Huawei has also employed some heavy duty stabilization, both optical and electronic, to ensure a smooth capture. The only time I really struggled with motion blur was when shooting from a moving vehicle, which is hardly ideal for any kind of photography. Fair enough. There's a definite learning curve involved in mastering the 10 times lens. So progression from ultra wide, standard, 3 times, 10 times zoom. So this is ultra wide, right? Yeah, ultra wide, standard, 3 times zoom, 10 times zoom. Those look all very clean. Those are all very clean shots. Nevertheless, the power to bring distant terrain into view or to get closer shots of kids, pets, or wildlife without spooking them is a huge attraction. I read that. Let's read that again. The power to bring distant terrain into view or to get closer shots of kids, pets, or wildlife without spooking them is a huge attraction. The fact that the very first thing there is kids and taking a picture of them at a distance without spooking them is a huge attraction. That I feel like that sentence needs to be restructured. The pets or the wildlife, okay. This sounds like now you're just being in creeper mode. For the most part, the P40 Pro Plus is able to zoom all the way up to 10 times and sometimes beyond while maintaining the fidelity, color, accuracy, and dynamic range of its other cameras. The only times I noticed markedly inferior photo quality from the super zoom lens was when it was obviously cranking up the ISO or shutter speed to compensate for motion blur. These are 10 times camera samples. I was going to say, even just for a main shooter, that is looking pretty good. So is there a shot of how far he was from this? There isn't. I really wish that he had. So if this is 10 times, I'm just wondering how far away it was, because these are, I mean, this is a little off, but otherwise they're very good shots. If you want to be a creeper mode for cows. As somebody who's really into photography and camera work, it really makes me want to test it out. Even just looking at these camera samples, they're very impressive. The standard telephoto at 3 times lets you punch in to take a close portrait shot or capture a closer perspective of a landscape or skyline. The primary camera is frankly bonkers. So, and again, that's really what I want to test out is the primary camera. I mean, I'm looking at this and it's like, holy shit, like it's a great shot. Very rich colors. And, I don't know how natural the colors are, but for someone like me, my style of shooting, especially when I edit photos, is something a little more rich, a little more contrasty. That is my style. I would rather have it start off neutral though, right? And that's That's why I shoot in RAW. I'm sure this phone does it too, but I've talked about this. When I shoot with camera phones, I just want your basic point and shoot. But if this is what I get out of a point and shoot camera, like, yeah, sure, sign me up. It uses a 1 over 1.28 inch 50 megapixel quad Bayer sensor to spit out 12 megapixel images, and the gigantic sensor size makes for shots with luxurious bokeh, whether you're shooting stills or video. In low light, expect bright and clear pics without resorting to the software night mode. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if this P40 Plus, this P40 Pro Plus had Google services on it? People would be raving about this phone at this point. Obviously, this is the caveat. You're not going to get Google on it. So in a way, it's kind of like buying a high-end camera and that's it. It doesn't have other phone capabilities. Obviously it does. It's just, not having Google is a very big sore spot for this phone. All right, let's kind of just scroll down here, because I know they're really focusing on the zoom or the telephoto, which is great. I kind of just want a little more sample shots. And these are, okay, so these are 10 times photo samples. Like, this shot is already pretty fucking good for a 10 times photo sample. I'm assuming there's no editing. I'm assuming there's no post-processing in these shots. If that's the case, these are very, very impressive. Am I looking at the same? Oh, there's only 3. I just keep rotating through them. One area where I really appreciate this versatility is when shooting video. If you followed our Mate 30 Pro coverage, you'll know the Cine sensor can produce effortlessly smooth pans and moving shots, but the main sensor, with its much larger size and natural bokeh, can also create the kind of shots that you'd think might have come from a standalone camera. Those are big words. That's a big statement to use. And it makes me excited, because it makes me really, I have to look at my bank account, see if it's something that I might want to purchase next year. So the bottom line, next year, the other big names in Android like Samsung and Oppo are sure to develop their own versions of optical 10 times zoom in a phone. But in the Huawei P40 Pro Plus, it's here today. Though with a somewhat eye-watering price tag attached, the versatility on offer in this phone's camera system just can't be matched, and likely won't be matched until 2021. This is likely the best phone camera of 2020. Again, big words. Shit. It's hard for me now to sit here and talk about the iPhone 11 Pro having the best camera when there might be something like this that can beat it. I might have to buy it. Let's see. I would make so many camera comparisons just to prove the point if it was better. I might just sell my other phones and see if I can spend the money on this. Sorry, I'm like internally thinking, because I think I really want this phone. But if you want the very best smartphone cameras in 2020, just be aware that getting it involves some serious software trade-offs. I think I'm going to buy this phone. I think I'm going to figure a way out to get it.